Okay, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages. We are here this morning. I'm in my YouTube studio, and purpose of this video is to explain some things about myself, answer a lot of questions that people ask me on my Facebook page. So I've got several pages here that I'm going to go through, so bear with me. First question. Are you Louise Hathcock's nephew? No, I am not. I am not related to anybody on either side of this story. That is a rumor that got started when a Pusser fan went to find a page, posted that I love you, Aunt Louise, and it stuck. Unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, that is a total lie and a misconception that I'm related. Secondly, which of your relatives did Buford arrest to make you hate him so much? First of all, I don't hate Buford. Never met the man. It was just one of those things where actually he was a hero of mine when the movie came out, Walking Tall. So much so I wanted to learn more about him. I got to researching his life, and I can tell you one thing you don't want to do is research your heroes, because you're going to find things you may not like in some cases. That was the case for me with Buford. Next question, where were you a deputy sheriff? I was a deputy sheriff. I worked twice for Benton County. Started in the early 70s while I was attending the University of Arkansas. It was one of those things where I had no intention of getting into law enforcement whatsoever. A friend of mine and I went to a party one night. Drugs came out, and Ron and I didn't, participate in that lifestyle. So we left the party. 20, 30 minutes later, they were raided. And of course, first thing everybody thought is Elam and Ron left. Narc. So therefore, things got a little bit tough for us after that. People wanted to do some bad things to us. So we figured that the best way to avoid that, if we were going to be accused of it, was to get into law enforcement. Ron joined the local police department. I got a job at the sheriff's office. That's how it all started. And it was all in Benton County. Are you from McNairy County? No, I am a native here, born in Bentonville, northwest corner of Arkansas. Let's see. Do you have any relatives in McNairy County? None whatsoever. I was surprised when I got over there. I guess I first noticed it when I was at the United Methodist Church, there where the ambush party was supposed to be hiding, waiting for Buford. I looked over in the cemetery that's right next to the church, and I noticed that there was a whole lot of Elams planted there. But no, I'm not related to any of them either. Were you an investigator at the sheriff's office where you worked? No, I was a field deputy. I started off like most people do as a dispatcher and jailer. Started off working the midnight shift while I was going to school at the U of A. Let's see. Why did you start researching Buford's life? What first made you question Buford's story about the ambush, and were you shocked by what you learned? Well, like I said, I started researching Buford simply because, like I said, he was a hero of mine. I wanted to learn more about the man. What made me first start to question Buford's story about the ambush? I guess I go back there to Louise Hathcock's death. I got the autopsy report, saw it, went through it, saw that she was shot twice in the posterior side of the body. And before, of course, she was shot in the head, and that is according to Buford's story, that the first two rounds that he shot were to her torso. He just forgot to mention that those shots were to the backside of her body. Of course, one of those shots traveled diagonally across her body, went in under her left shoulder blade, exited out under her right breast. She went to the floor, and then she was shot while she lay there. The reason we know that is that parts of her teeth were embedded in the carpet beneath her head. Oh, let's see. And were you shocked by what you learned? Just like everybody else. I was shocked. That's when I became not so much a fan of Buford Pusser, but a fan of the real story. Is making videos for YouTube easy? Well, the answer to that is yes and no. You wear a lot of hats during this process. You have to write out a script. You're your own director, you're the narrator, you're the cameraman, you're the editor. There's a lot of things that go into it. I enjoy it. I am retired. It gives me something to do with my time and helps me keep you people informed. So there is that. Back again, were you an investigator with your sheriff's office? No, a field deputy works closely with the investigators, but I will say that my second round at working with the sheriff's office, Sheriff Andy Lee did ask me to become an investigator, but by that time, I had other opportunities that came along. Especially back then, wages were not quite what they are now in law enforcement. Not that they're extravagant now by any stretch of the imagination, but I had a wife and 2 kids to support. And so, I turned the job down. As a matter of fact, that's about the time I left the sheriff's office to go down a different path. I might say that the path that I took led me to a lot of investigation, and I'll explain that at some point in time. People often say, here we go. People often say you were a security guard at the company where you worked. Is that true? No, it is not. I worked for the Phillips Company, which Sam Walton owned at the time. I was director of loss prevention for that company, and that covers a lot of ground. I mean, you have to be knowledgeable in all fields of that particular retail and industry. It's one of those things where I would, of course, look into shoplifting, try to prevent it. It's a major, major loss for most retailers. They probably lose as much money due to shoplifting as they do, or as they make in profits. So, it's a big issue. I supervised a pretty good sized team of security people that were trained in different aspects of retail security, including shoplifting, slip and fall claims, things like that. I put together training programs in various aspects of the company operation to curb shrinkage being any loss that might come along monetarily. And that can come from more ways than just shoplifting. Most retailers have some problems with employee theft. They have problems with vendor theft. There's all sorts of ways to lose money in a retail facility. Improper pricing, just any number of ways. The job also required me to investigate accidents that occurred at the store, whether it was workers' comp or a personal injury, such as a slip and fall. You have a lot of people that will actually come to a retail facility, set up an accident so that they can sue the company. So I was tasked with investigating those to make sure that their claim was legitimate. There's a lot of ways we did that. For instance, we would review videos to watch their behavior before, during, and after a fall. Like with workers' comp, we'd often, if we became suspicious that an employee was faking an accident or an injury, we would often follow them through the course of a day to see if they were as disabled as they claim. And you would be surprised how many people were turning in false claims. Let's see. I was also, I might add, anytime that the company was involved in a lawsuit due to any of these issues, I was the company's representative who would appear in court with our legal staff and speak on behalf of the company. So, nope, I was not just a security guard. Are you related to Dennis Hathcock? Kind of covered that already. I'm not related to anybody. I met Dennis by chance through a Facebook group site where a lot of police officers go to look at firearms, discuss those. Somebody brought up a firearm that was a little 25 caliber semi-automatic handgun. Somebody said, "Oh, that's like the one that Pauline Pusser would carry." And when you mentioned the name Pusser, the conversation instantly turned to Buford. And they were all talking about what a great law officer he was, so on and so forth. And so, well, you might want to check that because not all of his legend is true. And we got in a big conversation, and Dennis called me about 30 minutes later. Didn't identify himself at first. I finally asked who he was, and he told me. And I was familiar with his name due to the fact that it appeared in Jerry Heacock's story in the Condo News that was published in 1981. So after interviewing Dennis for several nights, I finally decided he was the real deal and made arrangements to go to McNairy County to meet him. That's how it all got started between he and I. Next question. Do you work for the TBI? No, I do not. I am not affiliated with any law enforcement agency. Haven't been for quite some time. I have provided a lot of information that I have gathered over the years to the TBI, as many of the people here on my Facebook page have. I think it's important to do that. It's the right thing to do. I always tell people, if you know something, say something to somebody who can help. Are you interested in other crime stories? Sure. I mean, here locally, there's a couple, three that come to mind. One being Morgan Nick, a 6-year-old that lived down in Alma, not too far from me. She was kidnapped in 1995, abducted, and there's been no break in the case since. I've always been interested in that. Also, we have a case locally with Dana Stidham. She worked at the Phillips Company where I did. One night, she was abducted and murdered. Of course, this did not occur at the store. This was on her personal time. She had her car found on Highway 71 here. She was nowhere to be found. I knew a lot of the investigators that worked on the case because I'd worked with them previously when I was at the sheriff's office. So I became interested in that case. And I have a good idea about who may have done it. It's just a matter of proving it at this point. Also, of course, I'm interested in a lot of other things. Like so many, I'm interested in the JFK assassination, MLK assassination, RFK assassination. All of those are really kind of mysterious and interesting when you dig into those. What type of movies do you watch? What is your favorite? Well, I have to break movies up into genres to say which is my favorite movie. For instance, in the law enforcement category, I have Walking Tall as a favorite, along with the Lethal Weapon series and the Die Hard series. All of them were good. They're all fictional, but they're an enjoyment to watch. As far as others, like in sci-fi, I'm a fan of the original Star Wars trilogy. And of course, there's others. Believe it or not, I like movies like Romancing the Stone. I enjoyed the proposal. Uh, just a little bit of everything. Let's see. Going on here. Are there things about Buford you know that you have not shared with us? Yes, there are. And I don't intend to share certain things at this time, as I understand it. The TBI has re-engaged in the investigation. I don't want to get in their way by saying anything out of line, so I'm going to let them get finished with what they're doing before I say anything. Let's see. What do you think about so many videos about Buford Pusser being on YouTube? Well, I really have mixed emotions about that. There are so many people that have come out making videos about Buford, and so many of them have done absolutely no research. All they're doing is regurgitating the same old walking tall story that most people know and believe. Of course, most of us here understand that that was a fictional account. As a matter of fact, in the captions of the movie, it says it's based on certain events, which are very few, that actually occurred, especially the way that Buford described them. But I think that they're doing a disservice to people by putting out so much false information. So I am disappointed about that. Have you ever been shot? No, and that's a good thing. Been shot at and missed. Okay, now we're getting personal. Your wife is an attractive lady. Why did she marry you? Well, I'm going to show a couple of photos of my young bride. One when she was 17 years old when we met. I was 20 at the time. And one taken about 12 years later. And as you can see, she is and always has been a very attractive lady.
The first photo here is Miss Connie when she was 17 years old and we first met. I was about 20 years of age at the time. The next two photos were taken in our backyard about 12 years later. And why did she marry me?
My answer to that question would probably be two parts. Now, you have to keep in mind that I'm often mistaken for Brad Pitt, so that may have something to do with it. And the fact that Miss Connie has very poor eyesight. All right, moving on. Let's see. Did you always want to be a cop? Why did you go in that direction? I think I've explained that one. Do you have any regrets about exposing the truth about Buford's past? Honestly, yes, I do. Like I said, Buford was a hero of mine. So much so I wanted to learn more about him. I started digging into his story. Uh, Found out that it is not hardly what people think it is. Yeah, I might also say that, I have to give a lot of credit to Buford for encouraging more people to pursue a career in law enforcement than any person that I can think of. Uh, for that, I'm grateful. That's something that cannot and should not be taken away from him, but it doesn't change other aspects of his story. So, yeah, I have some regrets about exposing his past, but the truth needs to be told. Did you have any friends in law enforcement who were killed? Yes, I did. I think most officers at one time or another have lost somebody that they knew or were acquainted with. Uh, in my case, we had a jailer here in Benton County that was making a cell block check, and he was stabbed to death. Two prisoners thought that they could jump him and escape. What they didn't realize is that there's a series of gates that you have to go through to get to freedom. So he was killed for no reason at all. They did not escape. Recently, here in Northwest Arkansas, we've lost two more officers. One in Fayetteville, he was in his car in the police parking lot in Fayetteville, and somebody walked up and shot him in the head. Died instantly. Another was recently over in a small town of Pea Ridge, about 10 miles from where I'm at right now. And he stopped a vehicle in a convenience store parking lot. And during that stop, the driver decided that she would try to make a getaway with the encouragement of her passenger. And she ran over the officer and drug him under the car about 100 feet. Of course, he died. Very sad thing. Let's see. What was your first job in law enforcement? Like I say, when I first started, like most, I was a dispatcher and jailer, and eventually got out into the field. You often to refer to your wife as Miss Connie. Why? Oh, I don't know. I guess it's a Southern thing. Just something I do with a lot of the ladies that I know. How old are you? All right. Here in 3 weeks, I will be 73 years old. And my young bride, she will be having a birthday in November, and she will turn 29 again.
This is a photo of us out in December celebrating our 51st wedding anniversary, so I'll let you folks do the math on all this.
Let's see. Did you ever meet Buford or Dewana? No, I never met Buford. I have met Dewana. We exchanged a number of emails, messages. I tried not to speak too much with her about Buford. You know, everybody has a position on this. And of course, I knew what hers would be. I knew that she wouldn't share a whole lot that I wanted to know. And I suspected that she probably didn't know a lot about the real story. So there was no point in really trying to get into that conversation, but I did enjoy meeting her. Do I trust the TBI? Yes, I do. They are a very professional organization. They have some great investigators, I guess. They're not the same TBI. I want to make this clear. They are not the same TBI that investigated the original ambush. You know, back then they were known as the Tennessee Bureau of Criminal Identification. They were part of the Department of Public Safety. And of course, there was a lot of politics, and I think that it possibly interfered with their ability to investigate the murder of Pauline, as they should have. But in the early 80s, you know, the state legislature wanted to take politics out of what they do. So as I understand it, they passed a bill that separated the TBI from the Department of Public Safety, which, you know, back then the Department of Public Safety was over the Highway Patrol. They were over the TBI. So at that point, the TBI became a standalone agency and did not answer to anyone that, you know, so it took a lot of the politics out. That's the reason why I think that this time, with whatever it is that they're doing, that they'll get a lot further, because they're out to find the truth. Pauline's murder has been a cold case and has been for 56 years. They've always been looking into it, I understand, but it's only recently that they got a lot of leads. Going on, would you like to see a remake of Walking Tall using the real story? Absolutely, I would. I think that the real story is just as intriguing as the fictional version. And I think what makes it interesting and what would make such a project interesting for a lot of people is so many people have seen the Walking Tall movie and believed it to be true. And a movie with the real story, I think, would just really draw a lot of interest from those people. So, yeah, I would love to see a movie done about it. A lot of people think that you had Pauline exhumed. Is that the case? No, it is not. I have absolutely no authority uh, in anything to do with this. Uh, the most that I can say is that, like several other people, I shared with TBI what I knew. They took the ball and ran with it. So, no, I had absolutely nothing to do with TBI. Would suggest that they probably have a good reason to have exhumed her. That's something that you don't just say, hey, we're going to do this today. There has to be a reason. There's something that they're looking for that they feel like was missed in the past. You know as much about it as I do. So, let's see. Going on. What has the TBI shared with you about the ambush? Nothing. Uh, like I said, they are a closed state now. They don't share information with anybody. They like to get information, but they won't share it. So you folks know as much as I do, or almost as much as I do. Like I say, I have some things that I have not shared yet with the general public and won't for a while. But no, they do not share their information with me. Do you know where Buford's car is? Well, over the years, there's been several stories about that. Some people say that it was sold to an individual in Louisiana, that it was taken down there and salvaged. Other people say that it was buried in near Crump. Uh, but I tend to believe a more recent story that I picked up on about that Rod Province, a friend of Buford's, was the last one to have possession of the vehicle. He bought and sold cars, and it's my understanding that he may have had the car last. I've been told that he had the vehicle stripped of useful parts such as the engine, transmission, various parts, and then that the body itself went to Selmer Salvage and was crushed. Who knows? That car may be a bunch of beer cans right now. You've recently been the guest on a number of podcasts and have been the subject of newspaper and TV interviews. How did this happen? Uh, well, it all started about the time that Pauline was exhumed. Everybody, I guess, was looking for answers about why that she was exhumed. I asked some of these people why they were contacting me, and they said it was due to my Facebook page and my YouTube channel. That I'm telling a totally different story than what other videographers are, what other writers are saying. And I guess that they think that I know something more than the others, that I must be some kind of Buford Pusser guru, but that's about all I can attribute it to. Another question: do you plan to write another book? Actually, I'm in the process of writing one about Towhead White. There's a lot of things about him as well that people don't know. His is a very interesting story. Like I've stated before, I think that Towhead was the only person in the Pusser story that actually earned his reputation. He was a bad dude, a lot worse than a lot of people think. At the same time, a lot of people thought that he was very polite, very pleasant, nice to be around. So, but you find a lot of people that are that way. When you think about it, Buford was kind of that same way. A lot of people think a lot of him, a lot of people don't. I'm also, planning to write a book about the ambush at some point, sharing what I know. I think the general public needs to know the entire story. And but right now, I don't want to do that because of the TBI investigation into Pauline's death. Let them get finished, and then I'll talk about it. Also, I do like writing some short stories. I've got a book semi-finished, just various things. I like to write what I call factional. The reason I like that is, in the first place, each chapter is a different story, totally unrelated to the previous chapter. So you can pick it up, read a chapter, put it down, and know that you've completed the story. The reason I call it factional is it's kind of like the Pusser story legend. You know, it's been told to be a true story, but when we look at it, we realize it's not. But what I'm writing are stories that give both views. You have to make up your mind, you know, which is real and which is not. But at any rate, I wanted to get this out. A lot of people are sending me questions in Messenger, on my Facebook page, emails, texts, asking me all these questions. And I thought, you know, I'm going to be going to the festival this year. We're going to have a meet and greet in Selmer. And I thought this might help get a lot of those questions out of the way so that we can spend more time just visiting with each other rather than talking about me. At any rate, that's it for now. I will remind everybody that this coming weekend, the 9th, 10th, and 11th, is the time that they hold the Pusser Festival in Adamsville. And believe it or not, I support the festival itself. It's good for Adamsville. It brings some tourists in. It's good for the museum. Do I agree with everything that's in the museum? Not totally. You know, there's a lot of things that I feel like have been left out, but that's neither here nor there. This weekend is going to be about just getting together, getting to know each other. Like I say, I've visited with many of these people for several years on my Facebook page, by telephone, by emails, by text, so on. And there's many of them I have yet to meet. So I hope to change that this weekend with the meet and greet. We're also going to have a caravan, or caravan, if you will, which, you know, after the meet and greet, we'll leave. We'll go over to Adamsville to the museum. And then we're going to take a tour of the route that Buford said he took the morning of the ambush so that people can see that for themselves, see what it was like to drive down through there. Of course, there's been some improvements, a lot of improvements on the road system down through there between 1967 and now, but at least that'll give you an idea of the countryside that he drove through to get to New Hope Road. We intend some stops along the way where safety permits. We want to stop at the Methodist church there where the alleged ambush party was supposed to have waited for Buford. Give everybody an opportunity to take some photographs, so on and so forth. Then we'll move on down to the first ambush site, which is only 7/10 of a mile from the church. And that'll give people a slow motion version of the ambush party pursuing Buford that morning, so you can decide for yourself if it happened as he claimed. We'll stop there, safety permitting, for a few more photographs. Then we will move on down 2.1 miles to the second ambush site. Let people get a look at that. And then a mile further is the state line area where the Plantation Club, the Shamrock Motel and Restaurant, the White Irish, Dahmer's Store, Albert Kitty's was all right there. Things that we talk about on our Facebook page. So everybody will get a chance to take a look at that. Hopefully that, you know, it won't be busy and we can stop and wander for a little bit. After we leave there, we'll go down Old 45 a ways further We won't be able to stop where Sheriff Dickey was killed because there's no place for parking, but we'll do a slow drive by that area. We're going to have a FM transmitter in the lead vehicle so that we can give you a narration of what's going on during this time. All you'd have to do is tune your radio to FM radio to a certain frequency, and you'll be able to hear what we're doing. After we leave there, we're going to drive on down to Chihuahua Guys Road off of the new 45, and we'll see the location where the old Hickory Grill was. After that, we'll go by where Willie B's was. The building is still there. While the old Hickory Grill is no longer there, we'll just see the location. But the building still exists there at Willie B's, so everybody will get a look at that. From there, we'll kind of circle around back down Allen McCoy Road. We'll see where Buford finally stopped the morning of the ambush where he was found. And after that, we'll make a brief stop there in Eastview at the location where there was once a state road maintenance facility and a small park. And that road maintenance facility is where Dennis and Johnny knew that Buford met girlfriends, and they went up on a pile of chat and waited for Buford. Sure enough, he shows up, and that's when a gun exchange happened that they witnessed. After that, we'll head on into Selmer. I've made arrangements for us to be able to tour the McNairy County Jail where Buford had his office. We'll see his office downstairs and hopefully get a look inside the courtroom where Judge Treese presided during those times. So at any rate, we'll have should have a very enjoyable time. I just want to remind everybody, there's no agenda here. This is just so that people can see all these sites. None of us are getting any younger, believe it or not. I've been checking into, time travel to see if I can go back a ways, but it hadn't worked out for me yet. But all joking aside, I just want to meet a lot of people, and those that can make it, I want to let them see some of the sites that they probably haven't seen before. And that's the only purpose of this trip. When we do go to the museum, I might add that is going to be the only cost. All the money, the proceeds, will go to the museum because they will be collecting money at the door. It's $10 for adults to get in, $3 for up to 17 years of age. Infants and toddlers apparently get in free of charge. So that, of course, will be optional depending on if you want to attend or not to go into the museum. So I look forward to meeting everybody. I'm going to be there early. I plan to arrive Wednesday, Thursday, and hopefully we'll have some time to visit with any of you who are there early. So at any rate, looking forward to it. Next week, during the festival itself and the tour, so on and so forth, we're going to take a lot of photographs. We'll share those with you. Like to keep everybody that can attend informed. So at any rate, next week, we'll be back on track with videos about the aftermath of the ambush. What happened immediately after the ambush, where the investigators went, what they did, what they saw, who they spoke with, so on and so forth. And most importantly, what Buford was saying, because there's a lot of key information when you look into things that he would tell newspaper reporters and such as that. So we'll take a dive into that. But until then, just remember, there is no agenda here. Just want to meet people. And as always, remember, the truth has no agenda.